Going on, fam? It's your boy Tony here. Unapologetically confused. It's been a minute, but I want to get on here and do some post game analysis of the Browns versus Ravens game. As you know, at the time, the Ravens was on a 5 game winning streak. The Browns had just lost again after losing Deshaun Watson. Trying to make a little comeback with Jameis Winston and stuff in the game. But this is a rivalry game. The Ravens, for those of you who don't know, some of y'all are really, really young, used to be the Browns. All right. They moved from Cleveland to Baltimore, became the Baltimore Ravens. And then, of course, the Browns got another expansion team, became Cleveland Browns again. So this is a deep rivalry. This is a conference game. These teams play each other twice a year, every year. So for those of you who were surprised that the Ravens lost, um, don't be surprised. It's a conference game. It's a rival game. Like, regardless of what the record was and how hot the Ravens were looking at the time, this was always going to be possible. So let's just say, before the game started, we know Deshaun Watson is done for the year. Jameis Winston was named the starting quarterback for the Browns. If you know anything, you know Jameis is a gunslinger. He throws caution to the wind. He's going to launch the ball no matter what. So this bodes well for the Browns because it reminds you of last year when they had Joe Flacco, when Deshaun got hurt and was out for the rest of the season, and Joe came in and was handling business and looking real good. Because they don't have any, they have responsibility as a quarterback, but they don't really have no responsibility to the city of Cleveland. So the fans can boo, they can cheer, they can do whatever. I'm just out here playing. I'm just throwing the ball. I could be on my couch right now, so I'm just going to enjoy myself. And then for Baltimore, your key injuries were Marlon Humphreys and Wiggins. So your top two corners were out. And we already know Baltimore's defense was already looking suspect as it was. They struggled to get pressure on offensives. And then it forces, of course, the defensive backs to be out on an island longer. And then plus they switch back and forth between man and zone. And I think the defensive coordinator is still trying to figure out that point of when we're zone, when are we man. And you would think it would be easy based off the schematics, the gameplay, reviewing the videos, watching the team, how they play, when they line up, what's better for each one. But I honestly think the Ravens are a better man-to-man team than they are a zone team. Because, especially when you're playing against good quarterbacks who can just, in a disciplined offense that can just, wide receivers, tight ends can find that open spot in the zone and just sit there. Especially for quick passes, stuff like that, man-to-man would be better. But at the same time, you really can't play man-to-man because you're not getting the pressure on the quarterback. So those were the key things going into the game. I felt like this game in itself was going to be a great measuring stick for the Ravens when it comes to running the ball against a team, for one, that was going to try to stop your run and had a top tier defensive lineman in Myles Garrett. And I say that because, the main competition for the Ravens right now, the only team they're looking at is the Kansas City Chiefs. And with Jones in there, can you really run the ball? They didn't try to run the ball the first week against them, like they've been doing against other teams. And so I wanted to see them try that against a team that had a stout defensive line. Cincinnati, they plug the box, but they're not built like Cleveland is when it comes to that front line. So I was looking forward to that matchup to see, is the Ravens offense really that great, that run game really that great, or was it just, beating up on teams that were lesser when it came to stopping the run. So the game starts and Ravens get the ball first, and as soon as I seen it, they look flat. Um they just the blocking didn't look crisp like it had looked the past couple weeks. The routes for the receivers just didn't seem right. And I want to give credit to Cleveland's defense because sometimes you can make a team look a certain way, but I don't think it was necessarily Cleveland. I think it was more Baltimore. I think Baltimore was getting to the point where they really was starting to feel themselves. And so the offense goes, doesn't score, right? Cleveland gets the ball, they score. Field goal. Baltimore gets the ball again. It's like it just seemed flat, and it wasn't like they were doing so much to try to spread out Cleveland's defense that they were getting outside of their game plan. And then when Baltimore had a chance to score, the goal line, they went to a wildcat with a direct snap to Derrick Henry. As soon as I seen that, I thought to myself, I thought AFC Championship game, and I thought Week 1 versus the Chiefs. Y'all don't want to win this game. Y'all think y'all smarter than everybody else on the field, so y'all gonna try to do something smart that was actually honestly dumb. This is what you got to realize. When it comes to Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson backfield, right? They're not a dual threat. It's a triple threat. You have to worry about Lamar Jackson's legs, his arm, and Derrick Henry's legs. A direct snap to Derrick Henry with Lamar Jackson as a wideout. I know he's had some little jump passes before in the past. It's still a single threat. Uno threat, okay? That's it. You only worried about him running. That's it. And so that was right there. That was, as soon as I seen it, as soon as they were calling it out and I seen it and I seen Wildcat, I was like, oh, hell no. No, 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 no. Maybe against Cincinnati. Maybe against a team that doesn't have a great defensive line. But not against Cleveland. We're not, no. I know what their record looked like, but Cleveland is coming to play. They want to make y'all look bad. They're trying to get their season back going. Like, no, we're not doing that. If I keep looking this way, I'm sorry. The Cowboys and San Francisco game is on. So that just right there, I knew it. And then, the back and forth. And I'm like, y'all aren't stopping them. And as the game goes on, y'all still ain't, like, I know it's going to get worse because y'all are terrible in the second half when it comes to defense. So I knew, like, there's a chance Ravens might lose this game. And then Lamar, at first he wasn't throwing crisp passes. He almost threw a couple of interceptions. He got lucky. And Jameis Winston almost threw a couple of interceptions. He got lucky. But nobody was really standing out. And I was like, if this stays a close game, it's going to be more on who has the ball at the end than anything else. And Jameis Winston threw it, and I think it was Stevens. Wasn't nobody from the Browns there except for Stevens from the Ravens. And he could have caught that in the end zone. Nope, dropped it. And I'm like, today is not their day. And then people missing Zay Flowers not catching the ball, Bateman not catching the ball, Aguilar not catching the ball, even though he did catch the touchdown. And because what happened was he had caught a pass, got him down the field, then he caught the touchdown right after. And then the very next drive, Lamar went to him and he missed. And I was like, see, there you go. Nelson Aguilar, you start making him feel himself, he gonna go back to being Nelson Aguilar, and the reason why nobody else really picks him up. He can be dangerous as hell for you and for the other team. So you feed him once, twice. That third time, you asking for it, and that's exactly what happened. Y'all threw that pass and wasn't happening. And then Derrick Henry had a big run. But for the most part, people keep saying, oh, yeah, you should have just ran the ball the whole game, ran the ball. That was the point. You can't run the ball in Cleveland like that. So what do you need to do? You got to spread the offense, pass the ball downfield, keep the defense honest, all right? You're trying to keep Myles Garrett from trying to over-penetrate every single time, right? That's what you're trying to do. That way you can open up the run game. But people just want you to spam Derrick Henry the whole time. You can't do that. Like, it's not going to work. That's what happens when you talk to a whole bunch of people who just play Madden all the time. So, Ravens run game, like if you look at it outside of that big run, I think it was a 50-yard run, 40, 50-yard run that Derrick Henry had, they did not get the yardage they need in the run game to be dominant. So then we get towards the end, and Jameis Winston, being Jameis Winston, man, it was... He threw it. Hamilton had his hands on the ball, bobbled it, had it again, bobbled it, had it again, kneed it out the way, fell to the ground. That could have ended the game right there. But they didn't. And gave the Browns a chance to score. The Ravens tried to come back down and try to win it, and just couldn't get it there. And I mean, Lamar was trying, but man, I don't know what was wrong with the wide receivers today. I think Bateman had 2 drops. Zay Flowers had a drop. He might have had 2. I know Aguilar had a drop. Likely had 1. I don't recall Mark Andrews having 1. I don't have the stats up in front of me. I probably should pull those up before I start talking. But it just proves that I know a lot of people are blaming Mike Orr for the defense, right? And I don't want to say he's a bad coordinator. Like, certain things you just can't coach. Like, the defensive line not getting penetration, that's an effort thing. That's not a coaching thing. That's an effort thing. Okay. Now, yes, it's also the offensive line and their schemes and how they protect and all that stuff. But if you have one-on-one, you should be beating that offensive lineman. But they weren't. And the only time they were really getting pressure is when they brought in a 5th person. Like, they'd bring in Hamilton, the blitz. And, usually they'll bring in Humphreys or they'll bring in Wiggins, the blitz. Of course, like I said, Wiggins and Humphreys were both out. So they weren't getting the penetration they needed. And, of course, that's what causes your defensive backs to be on the island so long. It was frustrating. Roquan, like, if y'all watched the game, Roquan, he was there, but it was like he really wasn't there. It's like most of the plays, when you finally seen Zero pop up, it's because somebody was already down. He was flying across to hit him late. So it was just weird. Like, I didn't really feel Roquan's presence. I felt Hamilton's presence, but that was about it. The defensive line was not Van Noy. Like, I was not feeling them at all. Like, it was almost like the Browns had a good offense for once. Like, their offensive line, their corners, their wide receivers, Chubb, this is his second game back, so he was actually running the ball. And it was just like, man. And the only thing that would have killed them was just a turnover by Jameis. And he should have had 3 picks that game. Literally balls in their hand. Like, two of the passes went straight to the defender. And then another one, a defender tipped. And if the other defender was paying attention, he could have got it. But I just wanted to say all that, like, because I'm seeing a lot of commentary on the game in itself, and everybody's surprised. And, I figured it'd be a close game. I figured like when they play Pittsburgh, when the Ravens play Pittsburgh, it'll be a close game. You've seen the one against Cincinnati. It took overtime to win, and Cincinnati's a bad team. Like when you play in these divisional games, it's going to be, a tough, hard-fought game. You play them twice a year, every year. These teams have been playing Lamar Jackson since he came into the league. So they know, like, contain. If we contain, if we rush with 3 or 4, and we're able to penetrate but keep him contained, that saves us on the back end. And, some teams can't afford to do that, but most of the teams in that division can do that. All right. Pittsburgh can do that. The Browns can do that. All right, question. Ravens receivers dropping the ball. Lamar had no help from his receivers today. No, that's true. He didn't. Bateman didn't help. Bateman had 2 drops. He had that big drop where I guess the sun was in his eye and it just hit him in the helmet. That could have helped in the game right there because they got downfield. But he had another drop earlier. Zay had some good moves. I would say Zay had some good moves for the most part. I think he's still a little banged up. And Mark Andrews do good, but you know how they play Mark Andrews. Like they know he's a threat, so they're going to double team him. Likely play pretty well. But the overall receiving core and tight ends just didn't do what they needed to do. James Winston's better than Deshaun Watson. The Browns have. I don't think. It's weird when it comes to Jameson and Deshaun. I think Deshaun is a better athlete and mentally a better quarterback than Jameis Winston. But I think Deshaun's mental is fractured right now. Because if you remember Deshaun from his Houston days, how he used to be involved with the community and how he was beloved, with all that stuff going on with him outside of football, the community isn't there for him, and he isn't there for the community the same way. So I think that plays a role. The fact he's not able, and I don't mean to say this joke, I'm not taking it lightly, but the fact that he can't get all the happy endings he was getting before, for somebody who, like, think of it like this. Somebody who drinks wine every night, that's part of their routine. Then you stop them from drinking wine every night, something's going to be a little off. Like, your norms aren't the norms anymore, so you have to come up with new norms. So maybe that's affecting him. The fact that he got that contract and everybody hates him for it. There's so much that can be involved with it that his mental is not there. And then also the line, like the way I think what was helping Jameis Winston out was he was getting the ball out quick for the most part. And the line was holding up. I never seen Cleveland's offensive line hold up like this, like they did for Jameis that they did. They weren't holding up like that for Deshaun. And then also, lastly, you got Nick Chubb back. Nick Chubb knows how to play. He knows how to block. He knows how to, run downhill. This was his second game back. When Deshaun went out, I think he was 15 for 17 before he got hurt. So he was passing pretty good before with Nick Chubb back in the lineup finally. So I think that's what. I don't think Jameis is a better quarterback. I think he gets the ball out faster. I think Deshaun holds on a little longer, which is in some plays is good and some plays are bad, right? Then you got to realize Stefanski gave up play callings this week. So that might have played another role as well. It's hard to tell. You'd have to watch the rest of the season. That's just like saying that we think Joe Flacco's better than Deshaun Watson. Yes, Joe Flacco played better for Cleveland last year than Deshaun has played for Cleveland, but I don't think Joe Flacco in his current state is better an overall quarterback than Deshaun Watson. But, I mean, the stats say something different too, so I don't know. Or it could be just the line. The line might feel like some of them might feel some type of way about Deshaun, and they might not be blocking on purpose. But I don't know. It was a good game. I watched the whole thing. I was disappointed. I wanted the Ravens to win, of course. I wanted them to go undefeated for the rest of the season, so there's a chance they can get a bye. Because I think the Chiefs will lose 2 games this season, um, possibly a third. But I was hoping the Ravens get the bye. But it's good. You know what? The last 2 times they finished number 1 in the division, and ended up getting a bye, ended up hurting them. Even though last year it didn't hurt them because they did come back and they beat Houston. But I think they did come out kind of flat in the playoffs last year against Houston, but they picked it up. And then, of course, we know how they did against KC, Kansas City. So, I don't know. But again, I just wanted to get on here post game of how the game went for us Ravens fans. The bitter loss. But at least it wasn't a blowout. And at least we know what we need to work on. And we know not having Marlon Humphreys and Wiggins in the back, that does hurt a lot. So, all right, y'all. Appreciate it. Y'all have a good one. I will catch y'all later. Peace.